If you want to unleash unstoppable abundance into your life and your business, you are going to have to dare to be different, dare to do something out of the ordinary if you want to have extraordinary results. And as my guest today says, dare to be stupid. Don't carry your same outdated money story and programming into the new year. Right now is your best season of abundance, meaning this is the perfect time of year for you to regroup and uncover what has been blocking you, what is causing the resistance when it comes to bringing more money into your business, into your life. And there are things that are blocking you if you're not generating the abundance that you want, or it feels so heavy and so hard. I put on a special holiday flash sale for you for my famous, and I can say that now because hundreds and hundreds of people all over the world have done my Make More, Work Less guided workbook video course. There are tons and tons and tons of pieces of evidence of how powerful and transformative this program has been for people. And it's designed to change your money story in 7 days or less. Right now, it's 57% off. You can go to projectmewithtiffany.com/make more work less. Swipe up. That link is right in the show notes. It's also in the description here on Project Me TV on YouTube. You will be able to start connecting the dots on what has subconsciously been getting in your way. Remember, 95% of what goes on in our mind is subconscious, only 5% is conscious. So if you don't address what's beneath the surface, you'll keep innocently recreating the same scenario, the same money story, and never move out of that financial set point that you've been stuck at. So just declare it for yourself right now. I refuse to bring my old money story into the new year, and then do something about it. Projectmewithtiffany.com/make more work less. What up, my people, my posse, my fellow crazies? It's your host, Tiffany Carter, and this is the show that is going to help you grow your business, your bank account, that big, beautiful brain of yours, your relationship, your abundance, and everything in between. I have brought on someone who I've known for many, many years and many different facets. He's been a mentor of mine. He is a client. I've been a client of his. We've also joined forces and worked on many projects together, and he is a dear longtime friend. This is someone who rarely does interviews. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if this was his first podcast interview. As are most super, super uber wealthy people, they tend to be quite private. And he's no different in that sense, but he did not do any gatekeeping when it comes to his secrets, and you want to know them. This is a multi-millionaire marketing genius. I'm talking world renowned. He's responsible for some of the most famous publications in all of history. On top of that, he's a master manifestor, and you are going to hear how to implement these strategies so simply and infuse them into all areas of your life so that you can stand out and you can heavily multiply the impact you're having on those around you, and also the impact your business is having on your bank account. I introduce Anthony D'Elia. This is long overdue. I waited to have you come on, Ant. Like I knew I have this like sense when I know it's the right time to have the right person on. This is the person who is responsible for in part making me crazy. Like, how do I always describe you to people is you're the Elon Musk of the marketing world. Would you agree with that or
I
no?
think that's too much.
You think it's too much?
It's a big build up there. I gotta say, it's a lot to live up to.
It's what I mean by that is you are like the OG of outlandish, out of the box marketing. And I want to know like how did you get to a place where you were like that? Because tell us a little bit about like your
Yeah.
magazine history,
Yeah.
because most people are too afraid to roll out the ideas and the concepts that you come up with because they are so crazy.
Well, I think we could start with my favorite phrase. I don't know if I've invented this phrase, but I've used it throughout my life with my clients. And it's simple. And it's one I think everybody should adopt. And it's called dare to be stupid. And I think they're really words to live by. I mean, I think they're good life words. Let's not get too crazy when it comes to life decisions, but you've got to sort of push the boundaries, and you certainly have to do that when it comes to anything in the creative field, I believe. Otherwise, how do you see things differently? I saw something recently. It was a cute little video on maybe Instagram, and it was about architects in architecture school. And this kid has this little model on his desk, and he's sitting there and he's looking at it, and he takes it, he turns it upside down, and the whole class goes, "Wah!" Just this whole idea, though, applies to everything we do in the creative business. You've got to turn it upside down.
Do you think that came from you being in the magazine world?
Yeah. I mean, you know what's so funny is I loved that business so much. And I mean, it just feels like, wow, am I that old? Because that was the world back in the day. It was
I
like,
fucking love a magazine,
uh,
man. I still love a
I
magazine.
know, I do too. It's funny you say that. I mean, I still will go and buy them or look for like those great glossy European magazines. They were everything. I've always loved movies. And even when I was a little kid, I was the one playing with the Super 8 camera and getting everybody in the neighborhood to be in the movie. And I would be pissed if like they didn't really act.
I
I have
could
a
see
few
that.
kids, yeah, like not playing a lot. I'm like, come on. Like, this isn't fun. Like, this is real. We're Spielberg here.
That is absolute that see, but that's why I say you're the Elon, because that is how you are. Like
It's so funny.
you're crazy in all the right
Yeah.
ways. It's like, where did the magazine world, because I wasn't on the inner workings of that, did they like promote that? Did they nurture that in you? Because you're kind of whack, right?
Yeah. So let's go through it this way and say, like, because I don't look, hopefully this is helpful. Maybe one or two things people go, oh, that's cool, neat. I think number one is, well, now I have three kids who are two graduated, gainfully employed, have their own Netflix subscriptions, like awesome.
This is a miracle right there.
Baby steps. They don't need to be on their own completely, but the fact that they can, yeah, I don't get a text for the Netflix code. Awesome. What you get to, reason why I'm bringing this up is when they're born, when they're little, you start to relive a lot of your childhood. And I think one thing that was really important for me was learning how to play. You teach kids how to play. You teach, like with my son, we played with the GI Joes and the action figures and all that stuff. And with my daughter, I did the Barbie stuff. And what we did was we created a world, and we let their imaginations run wild. And think about the metaphor of what was going on there, right? It was so important because we're creating a scene, we're inventing the reality, we're putting together a cast, we're putting them into action. Later in life, you're doing that. You're putting together your team, you're putting together your players, you're like thinking who should be where. Your reality is something that you've created. And I think at its best, that's the opportunity. Create your reality, like literally. And it's no different than when you were a little kid playing with those toys. So now you take that as you get older, and now you start to see things that way. Even when you're playing with your toys, you start to look at things from their perspective. You crouch down and you're looking around, and you're like, oh, I see it from their eyes. And so when I actually always loved drawing, and so I always love working, like literally love working. So as soon as I found that I could make money drawing, whether it was painting on restaurant walls, doing murals or caricatures or whatever, it was like game on, all in. I love this. I can't believe this is an awesome combination. And from there, I had done this drawing of the Hearst building and the Hearst family out
Some
big in
people
California.
don't know though, because this is even though Hearst is international. So tell
Yeah,
people
Hearst is,
what Hearst is about.
it's such a mega brand. I mean, they are all of the most popular magazine brands, certainly of my day. Harper's Bazaar, I think they're GQ now too. But I mean, they're like just those major housekeeping, like flagship publications. my dad had worked at Hearst, and he at the time was in a cubicle, and he had this drawing that I made of the building, and the CFO had come by and he goes, "Oh, who did that?" He said, "My son did it." He said, "Well, I'd love to give your son an internship in trade for that drawing." And he said, "Well, he's only a senior in high school." He said, "That's okay. I'm the CFO." So I got an internship, and I was Anne Hathaway. I go rolling into Harper's Bazaar magazine. I see that movie, I cry, I don't laugh, because I'm like, that was I rolled into Harper's Bazaar magazine, the top fashion magazine in the world. And I'm like a kid from the Jersey Shore. I know the city because we always used to go to New York a lot, but I'm like, wow, what's going on here? And so talk about training under fire. I mean, man, the expectations are right up here, which was awesome. But little side story, in the mornings, I would be like the first one to arrive. So I would like turn on the machines, I would get coffee, the whole bit, prepare the office. But what I would also do, and this is like a secret that I really don't tell, but I would walk around the office pretending I was the editor. Nobody was there yet. So
you were doing like manifestation.
I was just role playing, saying like, what would it be like to be the guy? Be the one in charge, be the creative director. Then I'd hear a door, get to my office, and then get the day going. But so like I was always sort of imagining, yeah, my world, what it would be like. And it's really funny. I mean, and I know you're the same, so we could be catching each other's fire here. It's amazing when you come across somebody and you're like, you go like, I have this idea. Here's what we're gonna do. You know, house project. We're gonna like knock down that wall. We're gonna build this out. We're gonna create this thing. We're gonna do that. And they're like, well, how are we gonna do that? I'm like, well, like what? Like, how could you even ask that question? Like, how could you not see what I'm seeing? And getting the details, forget it. It's it's already there. We just need to execute on it now.
Like it's actually happening. We just need to work out the logistics.
Soon as it's a reality in your head, it's pretty much done.
There's nothing, you guys. And Ant and I, we have deals together. Ant's been a longtime mentor of mine. There is nothing that'll piss him off more than someone telling you like right off the bat, like, oh, that can't be done.
Right.
It's hold on a second. Like, how about we figure out a way to make it work, or some hybrid in between?
Yeah, I think this is it, right? Like, you've been in the pharma business and you've helped me in my pharma experiences. But we deal with a lot of compliance, that being one aspect of the businesses I've been involved with and am involved with. And there is nobody else that I know of that has a no button. Like my button's always green, always yes, always depressed. Boom. And they're like, no. I made a joke to the compliance department not too long ago. I said, hey, I got your new Christmas card. Instead of ho, 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 it's no, no, no.
That's great. It's so true. Like, same with like people in, finance, or even in these like more old school modeled businesses. It's so hard for a lot of these companies to adapt. What do you think the problem is? Because they want the exposure, they want the visibility, but they're so behind.
I think on a human level, there's a personality difference. I think we represent a small percentage of people that just think that way, to the point that you can't see it any other way. So if we have a flaw, it's that, right? Like we just don't see it the other way. And it's fun too, sometimes, like when people are like that, just let them go a little bit and go, okay, so we pretty much identified how not to do it. Let's talk about now how we do it. Like, how do we make it happen? In both negotiations and also in arguments, and if you get into political discussions, whatever it might be, there's two ways to fight a fight. One is, I think of it this way, an analogy. Karate's like fist to fist. We're both bam, bam, bam. The other is judo. Judo is when you use your opponent's power against them. So you let that come at you and you sort of deal with that, take it in, and figure out, okay, now how can we turn that? To make it work. How do we change this around? If you think about a creative challenge, here's one thing about creative challenges. Two things when I approach a creative challenge. One is mindset. I tell my kids there are no problems. There's only challenges. I really believe that. A problem, like, we're screwed. A challenge, yeah, we're built for that. That's what we do. It makes us awesome. So one is, look at what could we do to totally screw this up? Like, think about that, right? People are all like, think about what are the things we could do to totally make this fail and totally make it screw it up. That's going to immediately bring to the surface the things you want to avoid. It gives you an actual fresh perspective on the idea. It's again like turning the model on its head. It's like, wait, my job is to make it successful. How do I undo it? The other is that when you're looking for inspiration, don't look at anything in that vein. So, for instance, I did ESPN magazine and I created it. And that, again, for people who know magazines, it changed the industry because back in the day, there was a certain cadence. Think of like how a movie might work, a certain way that things happen and roll out. I changed all that when we did the magazine. Like we took the first few pages of the magazine and we just made them full bleed still life images that was in the most valuable advertising space. Like you imagine the publisher, he
Because
went like, okay,
normally you put ads right there, right?
the biggest ads. You go, where do we put these at? Like, what do you mean? I mean, I'm talking open it up like the beginning of a movie. Boom, boom, boom. What is the spirit of this brand? It's that still frame, that slow motion that captivates the audience. That's the opportunity. Let's set the pace. Think of it more like a movie. And to be honest, I was also inspired by another magazine I had created here in the US called Marie Claire USA. It was a very famous French magazine,
My mom
big
read
European.
that.
Yeah. They would open with a big, beautiful spreads editorial. I use the fashion influence, my fashion background to influence the way I looked at the sports magazine, because otherwise I would just create the same old sports magazine. And the other thing is that the first rule I set, especially when we were developing a prototype, was no sports photographers. Like, so now I got the publisher pissed, and then I got the editorial team. The editorial team's like, what do you mean? One of them is really funny because as we went through this process, what I wanted were fashion photographers. So we had done a shoot and we had Dennis Rodman and the photographer was pushing a black and white photo. At the time, Dennis Rodman's hair was like all this color. So you got to sort of work through it. But it gave it a very fresh and new perspective. It changed. And had I been only trying to get inspiration from the sports realm, I mean, what would have changed? What would be different? So I think the greatest disappointment is if you do something and you're like, yeah, somebody goes, I think I've seen that somewhere. You're like, damn it.
Like you or me, that would be,
yeah.
I mean, I just flipped out on my team this morning, my social team, because they sent me a batch of content. I go, this is basic. Like this has been done. And that's they like that. I go, this is not on brand, right? Like that's not going to work. But my worst fear is someone going, okay, like I knew that, Tiff, like same old shit. But a majority of people, had they had the incredible opportunity you got and earned to create magazines, they would play it safe because they wouldn't want to risk that public fuck up.
Yeah.
But why didn't that come up for you?
Challenge. I mean, it's a challenge with clients too. I mean, you usually have to present an A/B because you also are working on the fact that you have to have a business, right? You got to make a business. I'll tell you one thing about business. I mean, I think in any business, again, mindset, right? You have the opportunity to build a really awesome, cool business and make a ton of money, or you could build a really small business. So that is really a choice. People don't realize it's a choice. So for me, when I started my firm, after I left publishing and I started my own marketing and design firm, I wasn't going for small clients, small businesses. I was going for the biggest clients. Also, I saw that I had a unique edge or opportunity, which was this. We were a small firm, so we could be very nimble. We could be super creative, and we could also be very cost effective.
Right.
And for all the effort, energy, and work it puts into going to a client, it's not like a small client only takes this much effort and a big client, they both take a lot of effort. Usually the small one, ROI is not great. In fact, I love helping friends with stuff. And I'm like, they're like, oh, I'll pay. I'm like, don't pay me.
I agree. Let's not go down this road.
Let's just, I'll do the project. Let's have it, make it fun and do something awesome. But anyway, I think you're part born one way, you're genetically wired. You can only see things one way. I think this whole idea of learning how to play and do all of that is very interesting and important. I do think you create your reality. I couldn't create a real roadmap in terms of like, okay, how have I been successful, like financially in a creative business? Like, I'm not sure. I just always was like this thing called in the zone. You have this vision, you can only see it one way. You've got to really work to make it a reality. But I mean, if I look back, I'm like, every time I was about to fall in the water, another stone arrived. And I just kept, like, I have a couple other thoughts around that too. One, which is, I do think the key to success, I tell my kids, are this. I say, one is you have to visualize it. That doesn't mean, oh, I'm in a cool car. No, make that so real. Like, what is the call? What
What
is
you
the
did when you were 17 at Hearst, saying like,
ah,
it's
yeah,
gonna walking around like I'm the editor and I get to
yeah,
make the decisions.
yeah. I mean, it's fun. Like, you saying it is reminding me, like, and I just told you this story, but that is literally how it was. Like, when I talk about making it real in your mind, make it real. The thing is, it's the first challenge. If you can't picture it in such reality, like in such detail, you're going to learn you have more that you need to learn, things that you need to just to get the vision down right. So now make that vision very detailed, make it real. Two is, my kids will have a friend every now and then come over. I want to do this or I want to be that. I'm like, we don't say that. And they're like, what? I go, we don't say want, we say determined.
Right. It's like, or it's like happening. It
Yeah.
is.
Want is a wish. It's the Disney lyric, and it's true. Want is a wish. I mean, it's like a determined.
It's like when someone says, I'm trying.
Don't try. Oh, I mean, yeah, it's oh my God, I'm going to think of the author in a minute, but one of my absolute favorites. But um I'm going to get to that. But anyway, so be determined, because it's key. You like, just have that level of determination. So like, you've already created the vision, you made that so real. Now be determined to go get it. And then the last, look, for me, I mean, I will say this and I believe in it, pray. Whatever your faith is, it's nice to have that one next thing to reach out for. These terms of leap of faith, whatever it is. I mean, there's something spiritual out there that's like helping you, whatever your interpretation of that is, because it's going to help you get there. And you need that, because I don't know how else to really say it in detail.
Yeah. I mean, most people on the outside, I would even say all people, whether they know you or they just met you, is like, well, this guy's successful because he has no fear and his confidence never wavers. But I know that's not possible because there's no one that doesn't have that stuff. So I think it's how you must process fear. And when you come up against like self-doubt and other shit. So
this is a good one. Let's dig into that one.
Mind? You guys, this guy's like, when I say whack, like, I'm going to say this a few times here. There is no one who isn't it like a beautiful mind? It's like when you're a creative, I love my multi-passionate creatives. You guys make like the best business owners, the best inventors. It's like your minds just don't work like everyone else's.
Well, before we get into that, because I'm going to go down that path with you, because I think it's a pretty interesting and provocative question. And I think it seems the more I study it, more people have deal with those kinds of things. So I'm going to be very real about it. I was thinking I want to make this point. Charles Bukowski was this great author, but here's his life story summed up real quick. His entire life was compelled to write. He that's the only thing he could do. And he just was obsessed with writing. He went his whole entire life getting rejected, couldn't get a novel published, could hardly get a piece printed or published. You hardly made any money. He was poor his entire life. In his mid-60s, suddenly, like the hippie movement was going on, and they sort of discovered his writings. He became this overnight sensation, like they say. 6 years later, overnight sensation.
Yeah, exactly.
But his famous quote is, "Don't try." And what he says is that if you're trying, if you find that to be a burden, he goes, maybe you're doing the wrong thing. He said, I tried not to write, and that almost killed me. He said, I could only write. So he found his sense of purpose, and he had no other choice but to pursue it, and he was all in. And I think that's really important, is like, focus on finding your sense of purpose in the world. Look, that's happiness right there. That's going to make you happy. That's going to make you fulfilled. When you start your business and you start making a lot of money, it's pretty awesome, but you do not jump out of bed going, oh, we're going to make a lot of money. I mean, not me and not a lot of people I talk to. The cool byproduct is you make a lot of money. You get out going, oh, we're going to do this. This is awesome. I'm going to get that account. And pitching accounts, what do you lose 20? You get one, but you never think about the 19. You're like, we're going to get that one.
Sometimes I did. Sometimes
Yeah,
I was like, this
sometimes.
shit's getting real old here. We
Yeah.
got to throw me a bone.
You know what? I don't know if this is statistically true, but I believe that most people get lost when they're driving. Not anymore, because now you have Waze and everything else. But back in the day, you would get lost because you turn off too soon. If you just went a little bit further, you would have been there. And so that's when the fight is on, is like, you're like, damn it, I'm like at my rope's end here. A little further. Keep going. You're almost there. You've worked this hard. Come on. You can make it happen.
Most people do quit
You do.
before
You're
it's
right
time.
there.
And they want to see, it's the faith, right? It's like people want to see the validation that it's working, but that's when you've just got to go, I'm going to keep showing up until it works. That's got to be the attitude.
Yeah.
Or like you said, you're not really passionate about what you're doing enough.
Yeah, you're not. And you're going to end up in some place where you're like, damn it, I wasted my whole life looking back at why did I do that? And then it's always been a struggle. You're carrying those weights with you. It's like so it's really important to find. I do believe anyone could be whatever it is they really, truly are determined to be. Now, what that means is this. I used to have these arguments, like freaking full-on fucking arguments with my roommates in college, high school friends too. That's not true. You can't be the drummer of it. I'm like, listen, are you truly determined to be that? Because that gets back to the whole idea. I want to be that. When you are determined, you can't see it any other way. And so there's something calling you to it as well. So I think it's very true. I tell my kids, you could be whatever it is that you really want, determined to be. And they're on their career paths. They're pursuing it. They're doing it because I think they also felt this calling. So they go hand in hand.
What made you leave the publishing world, so to speak, as like a employee and want to do the wildness of having your own business? Because you had a very high profile, sexy,
fast track,
right,
total
career. And
so
fast track. Most people would have stayed in that, kept going to all the parties, all the hookups. What made you do the wildness of your own business?
My timing was so good in that business too, because the Mac computer was really just coming out. And so I was young and I guess talented enough, because after I had done my internship, I kept working at Bazaar and graduated and got a job there right away. Here's a really cool thing. I'm telling you, kids, I don't know if they get it now. This is this is like a Think movie, something the Coen brothers would do. I'm sitting in this office, 4 other designers, all my senior. And what you would do is you'd be sitting there and you're designing all day long. And behind you, no exaggeration, there's a stack of portfolios at least this high, like good old fashioned. You had to open the portfolio in the day and flip through. Those portfolios are people who wanted my seat. And the creative director would say, can you go through those, find a 5 best for me to review? And I'm like, I'm literally trying to find my replacement here. But here's what gave me incredible perspective. One is that there are a lot of people who want this seat. 2 is when I went through that pile of 100, no exaggeration. I mean, no exaggeration. You might find 2 or 3.
Where you were like, okay, they're kind of on par where I'm at.
2 or 3 that I think are talented, maybe more than me. I'm certainly going to pass it on. But I sat there and thought, like, those other 90 some odd, like, why are they doing this? And you think about how many people say, love to go into acting, but yeah, the odds. Well, look, if you're not determined, it's not cut out for you. If you're determined, you can only see it that way. You will be successful. Of course you will. But you're going to be that small percentage on the top of that pile. But for the most, don't do it. But find the thing that you love and do that really well, because whatever that thing is, more now than ever, if it's money you're after, you'll be successful and wealthy. For me, yeah, you could also, like, I was in the magazine business. I've done a fast track. I became creative director of this huge publisher, one of the biggest in the world, definitely in the top 3. I'd say it was number 1, depending on what the year was.
Absolutely.
So I was super young, creative director, like absolutely everything you would think that world is, really fun. And I don't know, there was something more like that was just like tugging at me that was like, man, you don't want to have regrets. Like there's this great quote about it's okay to regret the things you did, but don't regret the things you didn't do. That you can't sleep with. The older you get, you cannot, you can't. So I'm like, I'm going to go. And I actually went into my boss, who I absolutely love. I was so lucky to have the most amazing mentors, the most amazing bosses. So I went in, I actually had a tear in my eye that I was leaving. And he was like, I know it's not the money. And I think it just sounds like it's something you got to do. And I'm like, yeah. And that next morning when I woke up, wow, what a weird feeling. I was like, what did I do? Like, what is that? Is a free fall. That's like jumping out of a plane and then thinking, wait, did I pack my chute? Like,
That is
hold on.
such a great analogy. That's so on.
Ah, and again, you are this person, you want to have a white piece of paper in the morning and start drawing out your day. 90% of the people in the world are going to go like, that's the scariest thing I could do. I want to be the boss. I want to be in charge. I want to have my own company. It's like, put a white piece of paper on your desk and begin.
And then
Do that
they'll
every
say,
day.
this is what I hear a gazillion times a day from listeners. We get tons of emails and DMs. I'm stuck. I don't know where to start, or I want to do blank, but I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. They're stuck with the white paper. It just, what
Yeah.
is it? It feels like there's too many options.
Yeah. There's, you know what? That's really cool. That's like a really good, like philosophical, like in one hand, there's this great thing about, they've done this study. You put 30 options on a table. You give somebody like 30 different kinds of flavors of something, and it's like they buy none. Too many options. Put 3, they choose one. Here you got almost the opposite, because you haven't even yet defined what the thing is. And so now you're in this like vacuum of headspace that you're like, where there, you have to define the beginning. You don't even know that. Another great metaphor I love, and life is a movie. When we learn reading is up and down the page. You start at the top, go to the bottom, turn the page, top, bottom. Math, top, bottom. At one point in my life, I had sold one of my firms and I started getting into option trading because I always loved it. And there's creativity around it. I thought it was really fun. And I did that for a while and I loved it. What really changed my perspective on the world was I realized, and it was a struggle. When you're doing options trading, how can you make money losing money? Well, if you're thinking top and bottom, you're going to struggle with that. If you turn it sideways and put the 0 in the middle, there's opportunity on one end, there's opportunity on the other. The positives and negatives go away. What you're talking about is just moving away from the zeros. There's opportunity. So now you think your life that way. It's not a top to bottom. It's, here's my life. It's this linear line. And for young people who are struggling, right? You're 20, high school, your world's over. Oh my God, it's a disaster. You're at the beginning of the movie. The credits just finished. Like the credits just ended. You got the whole movie left. It doesn't matter what kind of tragedy. In fact, the tragedy at the beginning usually makes the rest of the film more exciting, more rewarding, more fun. So like, if you think your life in that place, you're traveling along that line. Now you get to cast your movie. Who do you want to be with? Who do you want to have today you chose me. I get to be in Tiffany's movie for a little while. So it's really important because you make those decisions. These are things you wake up, you look around, you say, I created all of this. I created this scene of me walking down the street and the people I'm interacting with getting a sandwich at the corner because it's your movie. So just think it's a cool metaphor.
When you went to starting your own firm, did you already have the end in mind of, I'm going to sell this marketing company someday, or that wasn't in your head yet? Like,
Yeah.
I have an agency too, but when I went into it, I didn't go, I'm going to sell this someday.
Yeah.
Did you start it with the end in mind?
I don't know. I mean, I felt for me, I did not at all. I mean, and let's take a step back to, you had the question about what about the struggles, right?
Yeah.
Depression, those kinds of things. So I would say depression for me wasn't ever a thing until I think more it's like you become 40, you turn 40 something and you start to deal with these weird things. I don't talk about it so much for guys, but you do.
Really? Like what? We would love to know what happens to guys after 40.
You literally go like, what the fuck is going on? What am I depressed about? Like what? Like literally, you're like, what the? You can't Google that because the girls own that market. The guys are like dealing with it too, but then you don't even have a self-help group because until you start talking to some people, you're like, yeah, you too. It's weird.
And
So
meanwhile, you're at a very peak period of your life where you've amassed all this wealth and have great kids and a wife. And you're like,
awesome.
what the fuck is my
Yeah.
problem?
Yeah, I only say because I know like the well thing, but I mean, you have a garage full of like cool Ferraris and Lambos, and like you're just like, what the fuck am I depressed about? And you're just like, it's weird. It's so I think there is this one part of it that you have to come to this realization that there's some chemical thing that's happening, and coming to the realization of like that's probably going on, and then educating yourself on how to deal with that. That's that. When you're your own show, every dollar you make, that's a plus. You just put that on the board. Now you got to hire people. You start investing in real estate. You start doing. Now you're starting to get to the negative. Now if the money isn't coming in, you're like, whoa, this is really bad. So I have to tell you, it's a come to Jesus moment because I dealt with it this way. I went to bed. I literally went, I have to go home. And I went to bed. And like 3 days later, my wife was concerned. Megan was concerned. Megan, we had 2 kids. We just into our dream house, took on a big mortgage and all this. It was awesome. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I just can't believe this. And what really got me was one is I couldn't believe it. So I couldn't believe this was happening. But back to that vision, I'm like, this isn't, I couldn't make sense of it. I'm like, this wasn't in my vision. This isn't reality. Like the reality that was happening wasn't real to me. I was like, that's not making sense. That's not supposed to be how this part goes. So for a few days, I was there just, wow, I understood what depression was. It was so low that you're so uncomfortable that I have great empathy for people who truly struggle because they're not being selfish and they're not saying, I don't care about my family. I don't care about loved ones. They are in such hurt that the only escape is to escape. It's the only way you could find that pain is too much. So now you have options, right? You have two. I go back to nothing I learned in my business, whatever, college, high school, nothing. Sports. You're on the bench. I played soccer. You look up on the board, it's fourth quarter, you're down 4. You're like, no fucking way we're going to win this. But you have no choice but to try. That's it. You have no other option. Get your ass on the field.
Otherwise, it's a guaranteed loss.
Yeah, like what the fuck? Like, let's go. Let's fucking go. So now you get up. So I get up at 4 a.m. I put on my blazer. My wife looks up. She's like, where are you going? I go, New York. She goes, what do you get? Because we were at the beach in Jersey at the time. What are you going to do? I go, I'm going to get business. I literally did it this way. Drove in. As soon as I could see like, okay, people might start getting in. I knew the people who get in early, the executives. Hey, I'm in town. Yeah, I just want to come by, maybe grab a coffee, or I could walk up with one. My first meeting, I go to this client. I knew them once removed, but not really. It was a big media company. And I go, hey, I have a firm, this and that. And like the world's crashing. But here's what was interesting. Those big media companies, it was a big TV channel. They still had to promote their channel, their network, and all of that. What they couldn't afford to do was work with a big agency.
Exactly.
Because the big agency had such overhead. So I said, look, you could deal directly with the media companies, whether it's the newspaper outlets or radio, or wherever. You could negotiate with them and they're going to bypass the agency because they need the revenue too. You need creative. You need a good story. That's what I do. That's my spot. Tiffany, I had $1 million account by the end of the day, verbal commitment. I get on the phone on the way home going, I'm not going to believe it. I'm in the zone again. By the end of that year was better than when it started. And I'm talking, it's over, sister.
Yeah, by far. So when you hear people now, which I know in like the circles that you run in and that we run in, we wouldn't hear someone say this because we wouldn't have them in our circle. But like the people are like, oh, the economy. And it's like, I built my agency literally, it started during the whole crash.
Yeah.
Making more money than ever.
Yeah. And that's really awesome to build and start a business during the worst times. Your choice was get out of bed and make it happen or not. And what you do also for me, it was, whoa, this changed my business dynamic. I wasn't any longer just, hey, I need an ad, some cool marketing, I need a website. All of a sudden it changed to I'm totally providing the content. Like I'm actually an outsource provider at the umpteenth level, to the point that when we were working our way through the magazines, every major publisher in the city was our client. And many of them outsourced what they thought was their thing. The actual content of the magazine outsourced to us. So we were producing it, my firm was producing it under their brand name, because I also had told them, think about your business. It's not about all of that. What your business really is, business now, is you own the newsstands. So you got distribution. Other people can't compete with that. And you've got advertising sales capabilities. So you're really an agency. So you can negotiate printing at a scale that nobody else can. The content piece, like that, is a bit of a commodity. And the challenge here for you too is that every year you're promoting these people, but the cost of that is outgrowing the revenue that's coming in through either your subscription sales or your advertising revenue. If you outsource that to me, you get a flat fee. I could do it more efficiently, more cost effectively, less people. I'll put staff on board. But I mean, we were running magazines.
You're the OG content creator.
We were the OG content creator of magazines in the day.
What happened when you got to the point of, you know what, I'm going to sell this thing and move on to my next thing?
So one of our clients actually they had in-house creative, and the accounts that were succeeding were the ones that were using us, because of this whole idea of being disruptive in the way we thought back in the day. And like, so I go to the guys, look, everybody be quiet and don't say a word. Like, don't give them any of the capabilities. I go, let me tell you why. They've invited 3 firms to compete. They know you're qualified because you're basically a tech company. So they know you got that. So you don't have to sell them on that. That sale is sold, park that. Creative is where we're going to make a difference. So let's tell the story and let's present the creative and let it go. They're like, all right, leap of faith. We go in there, we do the creative presentation. They don't present at all. They go, hold on, let's get the CEO. Deal gets done. It was the largest account they've ever closed, a massive company too. Largest account they ever closed in the shortest period of time, because we took a different approach and we understood what was going on there in the dynamics. We weren't invited to the table if we weren't already qualified. So you don't got to sell them on the tech. They knew that. That company, though, ultimately ended up buying us. This was an awesome opportunity to do 2 things. One is have an event where I could make money and then think about the next thing I was going to do. And 2 is take these people who had been with me up to another level, which is what happened. So that was a win-win. I was home for a week. And then, similar to when I put my coat on, I went into the city, I go, oh, I'm going to where, and Megan goes, where are you going? I go, open an office. What are you going to do? I go, I don't know. I'll figure it out when I'm there, but I need office space. I need like an office. It's got to be cool.
Because you're a creator. You can't not do it. Just like your example of the writer who couldn't not write.
Yeah. You can't not do it.
Because could you imagine you could never work again. I mean, you've set yourself up many years ago. You could have never worked again. You could have done day trades, fucked around with your Ferraris, right?
Yeah.
But is it just because you have to create, or you would?
To the obsessive point of like, my greatest fear, I mean, it really is like thinking like, hey, I won't do this. I'm now involved in the movie industry because I want to be. And I was talking to a friend. I go, yeah, I'm working on a documentary. And they're like, have you ever done it before? I'm like, no. And you go online, you read all these things about how do you get a movie produced? And you're like, basically, here's what you learn in school and in most places, how not to do things.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Like, because I was like, no, I want to make this happen. So I was like, let me bypass all that, go right to the executives at the studio and tell them my idea because it's awesome and it should be a great movie and it will be. And they're like, yeah, we like this. I'm like, yeah, of course, because I expect that. Like,
do you guys see the mindset? And you're watching here on Project Me TV on YouTube, so drop comments below. But you just saw even you could feel his energy, and you saw him. It's like it's a done deal. Like it's happening, right? This is how it is. It's not you're not faking it. You're not faking it till you make it. There's no faking it.
No.
It's determination, and it is happening.
So I've worked with you long enough too, which has been such fun and education for me. Everybody already knows how amazing you are, but I will tell you, you are one of the most creative, energetic, knowledgeable people I've ever worked with. We've been working together for a long time. You exude a ton of confidence, but you've got everything to back it up. And so the thing is, you're never in a position where you're selling. And I used to have clients tell me like every once in a while, you're selling this. I go, I don't sell. I believe this will work. I believe this will move the needle on the business. I think this will be successful. I've never felt like, oh, I sold that one. Like I'm going in providing a solution that I know the other group needs and that I'm the best one at delivering that solution. That's really been totally my story from having designed a marketing firm is like, you need this. I could do it better than anyone else. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. And believe that. Like to your point, you don't go in and go, let me see if I could sell these people.
Then you've
That's
already
so
lost
superficial.
and people can feel it.
Yeah. It's like anything in relationships and a good tactic. Like if you're consulting with a sales team, salespeople are selling. That's their job. I'm not knocking them. That's what they do. And they're passionate. They're great. Awesome. But the best salespeople are not selling from here to selling from here. And so what you can do if you're working with a sales team, make sure they're convinced of the story. Let them know that the story is real. I had a project I was consulting with. They take subscription sales in a B2B industry. That means builder, business to business industry. People would subscribe to this service and then they would find leads coming in. So if I'm a plumber, I would see all these leads that are coming in so I could bid on those jobs. There's like 4 people in that market, very competitive. Sales team said, well, how do I get around the price deal? Like I go, explain. They said, well, I get on the phone and they say, well, so-and-so is $20 cheaper. Okay, I'll get back to you. Don't be afraid to pause for a moment, gather your thoughts, think about an idea, and then get back. I do a little research on the company, and I find that the little story underneath is this, is that it was started with a group of people who built out the firm, but they built it out, these relationships, like call the township committee. Hey, Bob, what projects are coming in? Call the next one. Hey, Sue, how's it going over there? It's like the other companies, the way they were collecting their data was 100% by scraping data offline. We actually still had a handful of people who were verifying the data. They were getting it, they're verifying it. So I came back with the story, which was this. We have an inside edge. And what I mean by that is we have real people inside who are calling those offices. So by subscribing and using our service, you actually have an insider advantage. You get to be an insider. So that's a better story to tell. So now if you're on the phone, it's like $20. They should be 20. It should be 50 less. They should actually be 100 less because here's what we have. Our unique selling proposition is a better one. It's going to get you the job. And now if they believe that story and they can sell from here, the world changes. So just an example.
Can you tell in all of the people you've hired, fired, mentored, can you tell when someone has the makings, like you're like, this person's got it? Because it's certainly not it's far from everyone. I feel like there's a select percentage of people where I'll nod my head and I'll go,
yeah,
damn, they've got it. They might not even fully know it, but they've got it.
Yeah, you're right. And there's something about, and I think the more experience you have, you get to be a very good detector of competency, almost in anything. Like there's just something about that you go, I don't know, they're sort of lying or they're not really qualified. Like it's almost in anything. It's as if you have an X-ray vision for it. But the number one thing is, and I know you could attest to this, is you're looking for you. You're looking for mini me. Not in an egocentric way, but you want that ambitious, creative, diligent. I'm going to show up early. I'm going to leave late. Like I love with my kids. They don't get home from work before 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I meanwhile, I realize that the loser world around them, the first thing they want to do is be at home, work at home, not go to work. And I'm like, play along. Just be like, yeah, cool, yeah. And then when they say, where are you going? Say, work. But also don't make it work. This goes back to the trying thing. Do you love it? If you're not loving it, you're not passionate about it, that doesn't mean every day is going to be rosy. Let's be real. But if you love it, are you looking at the clock? You're like, awesome, I'm here. I'm still here. I'm doing this. I love what I'm doing. You live in the dream, living the dream. That's what's cool.
And
So I
what
think, yeah,
it comes back to the mind though, because then people listening right now, people watching right now are like, I really believe you guys. I get it. But I mean, how could I possibly make money doing this? Or I don't even know what it is I want to do because I've been playing in the pre-programmed matrix like a sheep and
yeah,
following,
yeah,
right? And following what has been the way. And
yeah.
they don't even know. Is there any question that you can give them to ask themselves?
So we talked about a couple of things in creative challenges, which this is life, right? So one is turn it upside down. Two is how could I fail? Three is take a totally different perspective on it. In my recent experience in the movie piece, it's like A to B to C to D to E to, I'm like, whoa, that is a long trail. How about if I just go to Z? Like, why not? Literally, why not? Dare to be stupid. I think if that maybe should be the theme, right? Because think about that, what that means. Dare to be stupid. Go out there and just be like, I don't want to do what they're doing. I want to, it's not even what they're doing. You shouldn't even be thinking about what anybody else is doing. You should be so focused on what your reality is. That's get it. Here's a great one. And you know what? If you open yourself up to hearing people, talking to people, listening to people, just get your antenna up, right? In life. I was walking around, I'm in a city today and now, or New York place, and I was walking around Hudson Yards, and this guy comes up, starts talking to me. He's a security guard. And how's it going? I go, good. He goes, yeah, beautiful day, this and that. Yeah, yeah. Where are you from? I go, oh, Florida. I mean, look, New York, this isn't Disney.
Right. This is not
Like,
normal. You're like,
somebody's talking to a
is
stranger.
this guy gonna
Like,
rob
why
me?
is he
Like, what's
talking to
happening?
me? Right. What's going on here? Anyway, he said, oh, I used to live in Florida. He said, I went down there. He goes, I love the churches. He's Baptist. I want to tell you a story. He says, my pastor tells this story. You probably heard it before. People waiting in line at the Dunkin' Donuts, and they go up and they say, oh, the person ahead of you paid. But he tells it with a little spin. He says, I was at Dunkin' Donuts. I saw a bunch of my parishioners behind me. I said, pay for all of them. And as each one arrived, they discovered, oh, their whatever breakfast was paid for. They all ordered something different. It was all paid for. He said, here's the moral. It's there for you. You just got to show up. Every person may have something different on their order list, but show up. It's there. It's like we were talking about, like you already visualize it. So now for you, for me, it's reality. Now we're just dealing with the execution part. But when you've got that vision set, show up. It's there. And everybody's gonna have a different thing, different value. Doesn't matter. But just show up. And I was like,
And I love the dare to be stupid because let me tell you, you're one of literally maybe 3 people that 100% was always behind anything that I did. You know how many people told me, you're not going to make any money as a podcaster. Like you're not going to,
they didn't know you.
What's that going to do? And I was like, meanwhile,
You could meet you on a subway and you'd be like, that girl is somebody. There's
that's
something
nice to hear. Thank you.
There's like, I don't know, this is another weird kind of thing, but there's like this energy that admit there are 2 types of people, right? There are people who are like always projecting something really positive, and you're like, you're in their light. When you're with them, you're in their light. You know, I even get it through the screen with you now. Like, I'm in your light. There are people who your husband or wife will say, we're going out with so and so. You're like, oh, hold on. Because your battery's going down.
Like I need a pregame for this dinner.
You know? Oh, you're totally pre-gaming. And it's going the opposite way. Like that energy is going to get sucked away from you. And I don't know what it is. There's a personality type. Wow. It's like it's draining. And so you do seek out people that are just like full energy and full game on and love it. I have a friend who is a senior guy at a power plant, and he was like sort of not working for a while, this and that. I love him. He's one of my best friends and huge car guy. He goes, yeah, I got a job. I'm working there. I go, cool. I go, well, now the conversation is going to be more fun because you're doing something. I'm always busy. So I go, what happened to work today? He said, oh, a breaker blew. Now, you imagine your house, right? That little metal panel and the breaker switch goes click. Well, at a power plant, it's a freaking building. A fucking building blew up, blew a steel door off the building,
that's
almost
kind
killed
of
3
exciting.
people. I'm like, that is exciting. Now, like, again, his passion's different than mine, but isn't that He's got a way more cool story than
Yeah,
I
he's
have
in
to
the
tell.
game. He's in the game. He showed up for his thing.
Yeah. And everything, there's light in the room. Like, that's exciting. It's cool. I tell that story 1,000 times. The one thing about life too is this is you. Realize this. I'm going to tell you something about you. I had an epiphany for Tiffany. There are people who are blessed with the ability to tell a story. You're one of those people. There's this handful of people, and it's not to be taken lightly. People who, there's like the masses are out there, and then somebody shows up and tells a story. Other people hear the story. People gather around, listen to the story. People repeat the story. You in that moment became this like light, this connector that like you were able to influence in a very literal way so many people, so many minds, so many things. God put you here for that purpose. It's a blessing. It really is. And it's such an amazing thing. And everybody works so hard to go like, oh, like I'm a great designer or I'm a great writer. I'm great. Well, hold on. You may have this one thing that you didn't realize was the actual talent that you were born with. And if nothing else, it's that. And all these other things are tools to help you be very good at that thing, to be an amazing expert storyteller.
Interesting. I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. Because all these other things, strategic content, digital marketing, it's like that is all those things I have are what propels me to have a bigger platform to share the stories.
Look, when you show up in the morning, you are 4 years old and your toy box is there and you dump it over and the blocks and things come out and you start putting them together. That's all those things. Those things are just, but you're in that moment that you're playing, you're telling a story, you're creating your world, and people are benefiting from it, because you have that blessing that like, that's your thing, that's your purpose. And so that's like next level stuff. When you could change your perspective and take it to another level, it makes you just more of like who you are underneath that. You get to go, wow, this is really enlightening. It's pretty cool.
I 1,000% agree. And you were open. You're someone who's open to always like growing in these experiences. You have the privilege, and you also have earned the privilege of being in high profile circles, people with celebrity, people with extreme wealth from all different backgrounds. Are there any common threads that you've noticed in your observations of people who are like, because there's people where, I mean, someone making $200,000 a year, you're still in the top, 3% in the world. But I'm talking about the multimillionaires, the 8-figure, the 9-figure people.
The bottom line, I'll tell you, because I have friends across the range, and like just genuinely, like my friends, like it's the one thing is like people get caught up on these things, but like it's not like when you're having that quality time with the person, you want to be with the person. It doesn't matter. Looking at all that, here are the common denominators I found, and it's like I could put it in a book and say every one of them possesses this. One is they literally think like a child in a good way. They're very youthful in their mind. They like toys. They love toys. We could talk about toys. Some of my friends that are in that space for holidays or birthdays, we get toys for each other. They all still work. It wasn't like they thought of anything differently. That's what they do. They work because they love what they do. And so those two things are absolute things. And there are maybe other common denominators. They're good people. They're all this. But I mean, like those two things, it's very funny how they stick out for me, that they're working and they love toys. So they've got that really childish, creative, Einstein-like look at the world from a child's perspective.
They still have the dreamer in them, right? I mean, and now I am one of those people with millions in the bank, and I collect Lego sets. I have every Christmas Lego set ever made.
I mean, do you see? I love it. Wait, did you get what's the new one? The Hermes one?
Absolutely. And I paid triple for it. Thank you. And look at my face right now. No, my face is frozen in time, but I'm delighted. Like that made probably made my whole month.
For sure. I love it. I love stuff. I love stuff for the sake of the cool gadgetry of stuff. Same way I like cars, because it's not like, for me, it's a status thing. Like the car stuff for me has always been my own trophy. Like, hey, worked hard. If I'm not like working and killing it or like really, then I'm like, I don't have an interest in buying anything. It's like, if you're working out a lot, you're hungry. If you're not working out, I'm not hungry. If I'm working really hard, oh, cool, I want to get a Ferrari. But like, otherwise, I'm like, I don't have an interest. Like it sort of becomes like this, you reward yourself with that thing where you find like, oh yeah, I want to push toward that thing. But you don't ever do the thing or buy the thing for the sake of the thing. But
That's
yeah, the
so
toy
true.
thing is awesome.
It's so true. And
Yeah.
I know my audience would kill me if I didn't ask you this. I channel like what I know the people would really appreciate to hear from you. And something that we only touched on a little bit, but it is, ooh, I'm going to get emotional. It's one of the most remarkable things about you and Megan. And
Mm.
I tell everyone this. Those kids that you raised. Wow. Like chef's kiss. And obviously you guys aren't perfect. No one is. But in
Yeah.
this fucked up world and
Right.
in the generation of social media and all this shit going on, they
Yeah.
are, wow,
So incredibly
grounded,
calm.
and they were raised so wealthy and exposed
Yeah.
to so much. And
Yeah.
they are humble and grounded and willing. And I could go on and on. What did you
Well, thank
guys
you.
do? There's something that you guys did differently than so many others, even innocently, even good people just
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
knowing. What the hell
Well,
is it?
thank you, Tiffany. Thank you for saying that.
I am a
One is,
little I am a little I'm a little biased because
yeah,
Bree is like
right. Aunt
my little
Tiffany
mini
here,
is like
pretty
my
much.
mini me, and I'm super
100%.
proud of her.
Yeah, aspires to be Tiffany. That's again very generous of you and very kind. I think that we're always engaged with them. My favorite thing is to be with the kids. I love my family. I do. I love them. And we love being together. And like I said, when they were little, play together, love playing together. And these cliche things, of course, treat people with respect and all that kind of thing. Absolutely. You have to do all those things. And they've always been around older people. And we've always talked to them at a very mature level, even when they were little, very little. Doesn't mean they didn't have childhood, of course. I was just talking about, we play toys and all that, but we talk to them in a very mature way. And in that way, you're keeping the expectations higher. And everybody performs better when the expectation is higher. Like my experience back when I had my boss, the expectations were so high, I had no choice but to rise to that challenge. When people talk to you in a way that you just get that sense they expect so much more of you. To your point about the world these days and the fucked up nature of it, here's the biggest crime: this victimhood mentality in a very real way. When you're telling people all the time, because of this, because of that, you can't, and all you're doing is subliminally putting them down. Don't tell them that. Anyone has an opportunity to be something awesome in this country. My grandfather came over here. He worked in a barber shop. His brothers were like shining shoes for real. And you just always elevate it. Tell them the history of the family, about the hard work, the investment that was made, and that now you're passing that baton and it's one up for them. But to bring it back to the marketing thing, I'll give you one other thing. All my kids on their phones, at the end of their name, they have a little trademark symbol.
I love this.
And I tell them this, I say, put that in your phone that way. It's the reminder. Trademark means brand, that you are a brand. What you wear, how you carry yourself, who you associate with, those are reflections on your brand. So think about it, and that resonates with them. They think about themselves that way.
Especially in the generation they're growing up in, right?
Yeah.
Of the personal brand. And I think that advice goes for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you stand for? What don't you stand for? What do you want people to think about you when you're not around? Who do you
Right.
want to be the go-to person for? What do you want
Right.
to be known as specializing in? I even go further and like, what would I want people to think? Like, I'm dead.
Yeah.
And what would they say about me? That's my
They're gonna have a
goal.
lot of awesome things to say about you. I can tell you that.
I'm gonna be here for a
I mean,
long time, folks. My goal is the first thing for them to say if I have an open casket would be, "Oh my God, she really did freeze herself in time." I'm like 97, but from the neck up, man, I'm snatched.
it's too funny. So I did not have an opportunity to compliment you enough, but I have to say again, I am a true fan of yours. You know that. Love you truly. And just it's been a pleasure, knowing you personally, but professionally. And it's my core team is like people I've worked with forever, and they're all freelance. And it's like I go and hey, here's a question. I have the expert, the one, social media, call Tiffany, ask her. Like, there's no questioning it. You pick the best people. You want to be surrounded with the best people.
And you hold on to them.
For sure. Yeah. It's one of your dolls in your toy box. You're in my toy
Absolutely.
box.
And I'm honored to be. I mean, you've been a mentor for me for day one.
That's
Sign
nice.
my logo for my
Oh my
agency that
God,
I
that's so
still
fun.
use.
Right.
You
That's
know,
right.
I'm like very attached to it. But
Yeah.
plus all of your designs they stand the test of time. That's one of your
Yeah.
specialties, right? You
In
don't
that
do,
way, you want to be enduring. In
yeah,
that way, you want to be enduring.
it's
That you
very
want people
classic.
to think, yeah, like maybe I've seen that. That's a good thing there because you want it to be enduring, which means it's timeless. So that's okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
And when you got to sift through a lot of people to find your people.
Yeah.
Because a
Yeah.
lot of people are going to hear this and go, well, how do I find my Tiffany? How do I find my aunt? Well, you and I have sifted through a lot of people.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I think it's more like you just sort of gravitate towards similar people. My son is working in the space industry now, and the really cool thing is they're building labs in space because there's a unique quality of space because there's no gravity, so there's chemical interactions are different in space. Without gravity, other kinds of things become more important, like surface tension. Particles love to be together. When you pour water into a cup and you see it rise to the surface and it doesn't fall over because those particles literally want to be together. This is life with people. People of the same find themselves through space and time. They just want to be together. And so it happens a lot, I think, with people. Different ages, doesn't matter. But like there's this gravitational force that pulls us together past gravity.
It's so true. I love that. And I love all your analogies. That's like right up my alley.
Life's a metaphor.
It is. And you guys dare to be stupid
Yeah.
or end up being stupid
Right.
and not have gone after anything. I mean, and it's a
I
choice.
I hope I'm one of the stupidest people.
Stupid, brilliant, crazy, and rich. We need to make t-shirts. I would absolutely wear that. Love you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your wisdom with us. What a treat.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.